Commerce Alive Today presents
Western Airlines. In 1925, the United States Postal Service began to give airline contracts to carry airmail throughout the country. Western Airlines first incorporated in 1925 as Western Air Express by Harris Hanshu. It applied for, and was awarded, the 650-mile-long contract airmail route number 4 from Salt Lake City, Utah, to Los Angeles. On April 17, 1926, Western's first flight took place with a Douglas M2 airplane. It began offering passenger services a month later, when the first commercial passenger flight took place at Woodward Field. Ben F. Redmond, then president of the Salt Lake City Chamber of Commerce, and J. A. Tomlinson perched atop U.S. mail sacks and flew with pilot C.N. Jimmy James on his regular 8-hour mail delivery flight to Los Angeles. By the mid-1930s, Western Air Express had introduced new Boeing 247 aircraft. Western Air Express built and owned Vail Airport in Montebello, California from 1926 to 1930 and the Alhambra Airport in Southern California from 1930 to 1931. Western Air Express operated a seaplane route out of Hamilton Cove Seaplane Base on Catalina Island, California from 1928 to 1930. The company reincorporated in 1928 as Western Air Express Corporation. In 1930 it purchased Standard Airlines, a subsidiary of Aero Corporation of CA, founded in 1926 by Paul E. Richter, Jack Fry, and Walter Hamilton. With Fokker Aircraft merged with Transcontinental Air Transport to form Transcontinental and Western Air, later known as Trans World Airlines. In 1934 Western Air Express was severed from TWA and changed its name to General Airlines, returning to the name Western Air Express after several months. In a 1934 press release by the company, it called itself the Western Air Division of General Airlines. Its route map ran San Diego to Los Angeles to Salt Lake City. On December 15, 1936, 7 died when a Western Air Express Boeing 247 crashed just below Hardy Ridge on Lone Peak near Salt Lake City, Utah. The major parts of the aircraft were hurled over the ridge and fell over 1,000 feet into a basin below. On January 12, 1937, Western Air Express Flight 7, a Boeing 247 flying from Salt Lake City to Burbank, crashed near Newhall, California, killing 5 of the 10 persons on board, including adventurer and documentary filmmaker Martin Johnson of Martin and Osa Johnson fame. In 1937 Western merged National Parks Airways, which extended its route north from Salt Lake to Great Falls, and, in 1941, across the border to Lethbridge, Alberta. In 1941 Western Air Express changed its name to Western Airlines and later to Western Airlines. In 1967-69 Western called itself Western Airlines International. On December 15, 1942, a Western Airlines transport crashed near Fairfield, Utah, approximately 50 miles south of Salt Lake City, Utah, on the way to Los Angeles, California. The plane took off at 1:05 a.m. and was reported missing approximately 15 minutes later. Of the 19 passengers and crew aboard, 17 died. In 1944 Western acquired a controlling interest in Inland Airlines, which became a subsidiary with Inland's schedules in Western timetables until Inland was merged into Western in 1952. Western started flying Los Angeles to San Francisco in 1943, so the Western/Inland route map was a W, San Francisco south to San Diego, north from San Diego to Lethbridge, Alberta in Canada, south to Denver, and northeast to Huron. On November 13, 1946, Western Airlines Flight 23 crashed into the mountains 12 miles south of Gorman, California, while descending towards Burbank Airport. All 11 on board were killed. On December 24, 1946, Western Airlines Flight 44 crashed into the Laguna Mountains while descending towards San Diego. All 12 on board were killed. The cab investigation determined that the pilot misjudged his position relative to the mountains and flew too low to clear terrain. In 1946, Western was awarded a route from Los Angeles to Denver via Las Vegas, but in 1947 financial problems forced Western to sell the route and Douglas DC-6 delivery positions to United Airlines. In 1947 Western extended the left arm of the W north to Seattle and added San Diego to Yuma for a few years. In 1950 it extended the middle of the W north to Edmonton. It finally cut across the W in 1953 when DC-6BS started a one-stop flight MSP SLC LAX. On April 20, 1953, Western Airlines Flight 636, flying in the night, on the last leg of a Los Angeles-San Francisco-Oakland itinerary, descended below the prescribed minimum altitude of 500 feet and crashed into the waters of San Francisco Bay, killing 8 of 10 people aboard the Douglas DC-6. On February 26, 1954, Western Airlines Flight 34, a Convair CV-241 crashed near Wright, Wyoming, killing 6 passengers and 3 crew members. In 1956 it resumed flights west out of Denver, to San Francisco via Salt Lake. In 1957 it began Los Angeles to Mexico City nonstop DC-6BS, and in December 1957 it began Denver-Phoenix-San Diego. The airline's president was Terry Drinkwater. Drinkwater got into a dispute with the administration in Washington, D.C. that hampered Vol's growth. Pressured in a famous phone call by President Dwight D. Eisenhower to buy American-made aircraft, Drinkwater reportedly responded, "Mr. President, you run your country and let me run my airline." For years after this exchange, the Federal Civil Aeronautics Board would not award Western new routes while its competitors, including United and American, grew enormous even though all Western airliners were of U.S. manufacture while its competitors' fleets included aircraft produced in Europe. In August 1953, Western was serving 38 airports. In June 1968 that number had grown to 42. In June 1960, Western Airlines introduced Boeing 707s between Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland, and Seattle. 720B nonstops MSP SFO and MSP LAX began in 1966, along with LAX Acapulco. In 1967 WAL acquired Pacific Northern Airlines PNA, the successor of Woodley Airways based in Anchorage, Alaska, its primary routes being Anchorage, Seattle nonstop as well as Anchorage, Juneau, Seattle and Anchorage, Juneau, Ketchikan, Seattle with PNA flying Boeing 720 jetliners on these routes with the airline also operating nonstop Kodiak, Alaska, Seattle service with Lockheed Constellation propliners. Also in 1967, Western added Vancouver, and in 1969 it began nonstop flights between several California airports and Hawaii. In the late 1960s, Western aimed for an all-jet fleet, adding Boeing 707-320s, 727-200s and 737-200s to its 720BS. The 2 leased B707-139s had been sold in favor of the turbofan-powered Boeing 720B. Lockheed L-188 Electra turboprops were replaced with new 737-200s. In 1973 Western added 9 McDonnell Douglas DC-1010s, marketing its wide-body cabins as DC-10 spaceships. They were configured with 46 first-class seats, 193 coach, and a lower-level galley. From 1976 to 1981 the DC-10s flew Los Angeles to Miami nonstop. Starting in 1968 future billionaire Kurt Kerkorian was a major investor in Western Airlines. Kerkorian had previously controlled Trans International Airlines, making his first fortune by selling it to insurance conglomerate Transamerica Corporation earlier in 1968. Kerkorian built a large stake in Western from 1968 to 1970 and took control of the board, reshaping management including sidelining Drinkwater and, among other changes, canceling Western's orders for Boeing 747s, helping Western minimize the impact of the wide-body-driven capacity glut of the early 1970s. He remained a power at Western until 1976, when he sold his remaining stock back to the company. In 1969, Western Airlines opened negotiations to merge with American Airlines. However, the merger was opposed by rival airlines such as Continental Airlines and the United States Department of Justice Antitrust Division under Richard Wellington McLaren. President Richard Nixon's attorney Herbert W. Kalmbach suggested that the antitrust suit would be dropped in exchange for a $75,000 campaign contribution to the Committee for the Re-election of the President, which American Airlines CEO George A. Spetter agreed to. However, the merger was nonetheless rejected in a 4-1 decision by the Civil Aeronautics Board in July 1972. On February 25, 1971, Western Airlines Flight 329, a Boeing 737, was hijacked by a passenger, demanding to be taken to Cuba but instead landed in Canada. On March 31, 1971, Western Airlines Flight 366, a Boeing 720-047B flying from Los Angeles to Ontario, California, on a pilot proficiency check flight, yawed and rolled out of control, and crashed while in the process of executing a 3-engine missed approach from a simulated engine-out instrument approach. The 5 crew members and only occupants died in the crash. On June 2, 1972, Western Airlines Flight 701 from Los Angeles to Seattle was hijacked by Willie Roger Holder, a Vietnam War veteran, and his girlfriend Catherine Marie Kirkow. The hijackers claimed they had a bomb in an attaché case and demanded $500,000 and that Angela Davis, who was then on trial, be freed. After allowing half the passengers to get off in San Francisco and the other half to get off in New York on a refueling stop, they flew on to Algeria, where they were granted political asylum, joining the international section of the Black Panther Party. It was and still remains the longest-distance hijacking in American history. Later, $488,000 of the ransom money was returned to American officials. March 31, 1975, Western Flight 470 was landing at Casper Airport when it overshot the runway and struck a shallow irrigation ditch before stopping about 800 feet beyond the departure end of the runway. Weather conditions at the time were at minimum visibility with light snow. The Boeing 737-200 was written off beyond repair. 4 passengers suffered various injuries. Western was headquartered in Los Angeles, California. After the Airline Deregulation Act in 1978, the airline's hubs were reduced to 2 airports, Los Angeles International Airport and Salt Lake City International Airport. Before deregulation, Western had small hubs in Anchorage, Alaska, Denver, Las Vegas, Minneapolis/St. Paul and San Francisco. On July 31, 1979, Western Airlines Flight 44 departed Los Angeles International Airport en route to Denver, Colorado, and Billings, Montana, via several other intermediate stops and then mistakenly landed at Buffalo, Wyoming, instead of Sheridan, Wyoming, which was the intended destination. No injuries occurred and the only damage was to the ramp at the airport, which was not designed to support the weight of the Boeing 737-200 jetliner. The incident prompted a legal battle and subsequent landmark aviation ruling of Ferguson v. NTSB. On October 31, 1979, Western Airlines Flight 2605 crashed while landing at Mexico City International Airport in Mexico City, killing 72. The crew landed the DC-10 on a closed runway and it collided with construction vehicles during the attempted go-around. In spring 1987, shortly before Western was acquired by Delta Air Lines, the airline had 2 hubs, a major operation in Salt Lake City and a small hub in Los Angeles. At its peak in the 1970s and 1980s, Western flew to cities across the western United States, and to Mexico, Alaska, Hawaii, and Canada. New York City, Washington, D.C., Boston, and Miami were added on the East Coast as well as Chicago and St. Louis, and cities in Texas, and New Orleans in the South. Western had many interstate flights in California, competing with Pacific Southwest Airlines, Air California/AirCal, Air West/Hughes Air West and United Airlines. In addition, Western operated Islander service with Boeing 707-320s, Boeing 720BS and McDonnell Douglas DC-10s to Hawaii from a number of cities that previously did not have direct flights to the 50th state. In 1973, Western flew nonstop between Honolulu and Anchorage, Los Angeles, Oakland, California, San Diego, San Francisco, and San Jose, California, and 1 stop between Honolulu and Las Vegas, Minneapolis/St. Paul, Phoenix, Sacramento, and Salt Lake City. In 1981, the airline also flew nonstop DC-10s between Vancouver, British Columbia, and Honolulu. One of the smallest jet destinations was West Yellowstone, Montana, near Yellowstone National Park. Western flew Boeing 737-200s to West Yellowstone Airport in the summer, replacing Lockheed L-188 Electras. In the 1970s and 1980s, Western served a number of small cities with 737-200s including Butte, Montana, Casper, Wyoming, Cheyenne, Wyoming, Helena, Montana, Idaho Falls, Idaho, Pierre, South Dakota, Pocatello, Idaho, Rapid City, South Dakota, and Sheridan, Wyoming. The 737 replaced Electras to all of these cities. In 1968 the airline was operating nonstop Boeing 720BS between the Annette Island Airport serving Ketchikan, Alaska and Seattle in addition to 720BS between Juneau and Seattle, and in 1973 was flying 720B nonstops between Kodiak, Alaska, and Seattle. In 1978, Western Airlines and Continental Airlines agreed to merge. A dispute broke out over what to call the combined airline, Western Continental or Continental Western, prompting an infamous coin toss. Bob Six, the colorful founder of CAL, demanded that Continental be tails in deference to its marketing slogan "We really move our tail for you." Continental Airlines, the proud bird with the golden tail. The coin flip turned up heads. Six was so disappointed he called the merger off. From October 1980 to October 1981, Western flew Honolulu to Anchorage to London Gatwick Airport with a single McDonnell Douglas DC-10-30. For less than a year starting in April 1981 it flew LGW to Denver, continuing to Las Vegas and Los Angeles. Another international route was Los Angeles to Miami to Nassau, in the Bahamas for a year in 1980-81. Western extended its network to New York City, Washington, D.C. and Boston, as well as to Chicago and St. Louis in the Midwest, Albuquerque and El Paso in the West, and Houston, New Orleans, Miami, and Fort Lauderdale. In 1987 Western had 4 Boeing 737-300 round trips between Boston and New York LaGuardia Airport, and a major hub at Salt Lake City International Airport and a small hub at Los Angeles International Airport. In 1986, Western entered into a code-sharing agreement with SkyWest Airlines, a commuter airline. SkyWest Embraer EMB 120 Brasilias and Fairchild Swearingen Metroliners connected to Western mainline flights at Salt Lake City, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Phoenix, San Diego, and other Western mainline destinations. In spring 1987 SkyWest/Western Express served 36 cities in Arizona, California, Colorado, Montana, Nevada, Utah, and Wyoming. Western entered a similar code-sharing agreement with Alaska-based South Central Air, a small commuter airline that operated as Western Express as well, connecting to Western flights at Anchorage. Several cities in southern Alaska including Homer, Kenai, Soldotna were served by South Central Air operating as Western Express. After the acquisition of Western by Delta Air Lines, SkyWest became a Delta Connection code-sharing airline. In the early 1980s Air Florida tried to buy Western Airlines, but it was able to purchase only 16% of the airline's stock. On September 9, 1986, Western Airlines and Delta Air Lines entered into an agreement and plan of merger. The merger agreement was approved by the United States Department of Transportation on December 11, 1986. On December 16, 1986, shareholder approval was conferred and Western Airlines became a wholly owned subsidiary of Delta. The Western brand was discontinued and the employee workforces were fully merged on April 1, 1987. All of Western's aircraft were repainted in Delta's livery, including 12 McDonnell Douglas DC-10s. Delta eventually decided to eliminate the DC-10s from its fleet as it already operated Lockheed L-1011 TriStars, a similar type. Delta retained Western's hubs in Los Angeles and Salt Lake City, both remain major gateways and hubs for Delta.
Extraordinary. Western Airlines, the only way to fly.
If you have any fond memories, please indicate it at the comments below. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and like.